Good evening, all you creatures of the night. Perched upon a hillside deep within the forests of France sits a mansion of a doctor. A brilliant doctor. The preeminent Parisian plastic surgeon on heterografting. What's that? It's the very delicate and precise medical procedure of transferring living tissue from one human to another. Society adores and revels in his contributions to science. But by nightfall, his skills are being utilized for another motive, a far more sinister motive. The streets of Paris are not safe for anyone, human or animal alike, as the doctor searches for his latest lab experiment. Who will be under the knife tonight? This is It Records. I'm one of your hosts, Matt Johnson, and as always, I'm joined with really the brilliant,
I'm just gonna
charming.
I want to cut you off right there.
Come on, it's my shtick. It's my shtick, Pete.
It's just going on too long.
Fine, Pete. He's a great guy.
No one agrees.
I just gotta cultivate that atmosphere around you, and then they get to meet you, and they go, "Wow, man."
You'd be like, he's not. He kind of disappoints.
Well, Pete, I disagree, but this week, everybody, on the podcast, we watched Eyes Without a Face. It's a 1960s French-Italian film.
Can you say the French name?
Les Yeux Sans Visage? I think I butchered that. Sorry for any French listeners, but...
You faked it pretty well for me, for my liking.
I just said it with confidence, and I went...
The oui. That kind of thing
oui.
to it.
But this, yeah, I hope I didn't. I'm sure I did butcher that though. Anyway, directed by Georges Franju, I believe, and 1960 French Italian. We went foreign this week, and before we really go deep into that movie and what's it about, Pete, what is our creepy headline for this week?
It's from
Creepy Headlines. It's a work in progress.
Just do the Friday the 13th score under it.
Or we could even throw in the theme from this movie. I think would be
That's true.
Would be apropos.
The circus theme.
Yeah, I thought circus is. I was thinking carnival when I was watching it.
Okay, I
like
thought.
Yeah,
I could see that too. I thought like old timey circus.
Yeah, that's what I got too. I'm sure we can play that real quick, right?
Yeah, let's just do it.
Yeah, let's throw it out to him.
We're not charging anything.
Yeah, this is all free, educational purposes.
So this is from the Surgeons of Reddit. So it's almost a botched surgery moment. Thought very fitting to the theme.
Absolutely.
This guy, Dr. Shlomo from Reddit, says this one's from his dad. Or her dad. I don't know. We were putting up central line for a drip with an 18G needle, 1.2 millimeter, relatively big compared to most needles, in a patient's external jugular. And all of a sudden the needle went right into the jugular. We all started panicking because usually with a drip the needle is meant to come out and only the plastic remains. But now we had lost the needle inside the guy's jugular.
Jesus.
Before we could even fish it out, it was gone. I looked at my fellow surgeons and nurses, and before we could do anything, we rushed him right into the theater. That's weird. After a few minutes, we fished the needle out of near his subclavian vein, closer towards his shoulder.
Yeah.
And we breathed a sigh of relief.
That's insane. It went down.
We're both like cringing at our neck right now.
I'm touching my neck right now.
I know. I'm like,
ugh.
Get it out of there.
So they put it in the jugular near the neck, and it came out near the shoulder.
It is like I think the needle broke, and I think they just kind of and it
even
is,
worse.
Yeah. So you know that scene in The Exorcist where they're like testing on was her name Regan or whatever?
Yeah.
And then and then a little spurt comes out.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I think that's what that is. I don't know what it's for, but that's the best analogy I have for it.
No, that paints a good picture for me, but that's still, that's cringe. I'm not a big fan of needles in the first place.
Me either.
That's gonna give me nightmares just stuck in my throat. Ugh.
Yeah, I could watch most horror movies, but talking about needles, I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
scared.
Yeah. I'll watch any horror movie you throw at me. Needles, yeah, keep them away.
Spiders, they could all die.
Yeah. Yeah. Screw them. We don't need them. And with that, Pete used a botched surgery type story because that's really what Eyes Without a Face is about. If you haven't seen it or heard of it, it's a French-Italian film horror based on a novel by Jean Randon of the same title, and it follows a surgeon who causes an accident in his past which leaves his daughter disfigured. Her face is mangled, and he'll go to any extreme to give her a new face. That is the plot line for Eyes Without a Face.
Is that shown?
Is what shown?
The accident, or is it just like we kind of find that out as it unveils? Because there was some parts that I like. So I watched this movie in 2 increments. The first time I was very tired, and the first half I thought moved slower than the second half, and then I was like kind of like drifting in and out of it, and then I was like, wait, what's happening?
To answer your question about whether we see the accident or not, we don't.
Okay.
It's kind of like parsed to it. It's almost like a little mystery before the movie gets going, really.
Yeah.
It starts off with we're on this highway. This girl's frantically looking in the mirror. That carnival-like music that we talked about is playing. And there's a person in the back. You can't see their face. They're like really hooded. They're wearing a hat. So you're kind of shrouded in this mystery to start it. But we don't see the disfigurement accident. That's later on.
Yeah. Can I talk about that scene for... Let's talk about that scene for a second.
Yeah.
Because, like,
yeah.
I was so confused about, like, because it's the first time we see a body being dumped. And
Mm-hmm.
Do they steal that person's face and they're dead? Or are they just dumping a body?
Both. So what
I think I just like answered my own question.
Yeah.
I got the juices flowing.
Yeah. So for the listener, for just even more context, basically, as we said, there's a disfigurement of his daughter, and he's this great plastic surgeon of heterografting, which is taking living tissue from people, putting it on another. And what he does, and like his mistress / assistant, basically are wrangling up. They find women that look similar or similar tissue to his daughter. They take him to the lab, and they're trying to get a perfect face for her.
Is that when that like surgery became like a thing? Because I feel like that's very common in like horror movies. When there's like a new thing that comes out, they immediately like take advantage of it and try and scare you.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a tenet of horror, and I'm sure it was probably still even I don't know when heterografting or like tissue transfer became commonplace. Maybe it was in the 60s, but I had to be around that time, and they're going to jump on it. That fear of almost the unknown of this new technological change. How can we make people have this fear of it? This is typical of horror.
Yeah, I was like, they're really pushing for this theme right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's based on the novel, which was
I saw that
in the 50s. Yeah, which was famous, and actually, it was much more graphic. And we can get into that with the film. This is the 60s, so there's a lot of censorship issues. But the book was really graphic, and especially with experiments. The doctor has several dogs in this movie, and other animals that he's experimenting with. But the French, I think it was the French censors made them cut down on the brutality of the experiments and the gore. And then there was a lot of sexual innuendos in the book. Between the doctor and even the daughter and her fiance or whatever, and then the Italian censors made him cut back on that. So it's like a lot of restrictions on this movie.
That's weird.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I was like, okay. I mean, it's the 60s, but I thought that would have been... Because we watched Torso, which is an Italian film.
Yeah.
But again, that was violence. They were okay. Well, no, there was a lot of sexuality in that movie too.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's
maybe it was because of the cross country. They're like, okay,
uh, it's the border thing. We gotta
yeah,
have the higher morale.
maybe.
Mm.
I
Oh.
we're all just making educated guesses here.
Yeah, those are all speculation. But as we're getting to the crux of this, Pete, I've got a few things of how this really has significance in the horror genre, because I feel like many people don't know this movie as much unless you're into the genre. But 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. Um, I even did some research on French horror, and people rate this as like the number 2 French horror movie made.
Oh
So
wow.
it has some merit. And I was wondering, as you're watching it, um, anything you saw that are, I guess, basic elements of horror, or things that kind of maybe started other horror movies that we see now that are derivative of it, that really that are maybe commonplace now, but then this was kind of a unique film, unique idea for a horror film.
Yeah, I thought so too. I could see like I know like reading the Wikipedia page they're trying to like steer away from the mad scientist character, but I could still kind of see that in this a little bit. But I mean, coming off the 50s, that's really hard to escape with all the monster movies that came out. But I would say that compared to that, that's very tame. And I'm sure, I mean, name a bad guy doctor, you know, that's probably some influence there. I really can't think of anything off the top of my head that heavily borrows from this movie. I don't know if you got one to shock me.
No, there wasn't anything that particularly I thought was um, like genre changing, or people use it a lot now. Um, but there's a, it just seemed it was its own interesting take on the horror genre. I think that when people who are outside of, and I'll explain. Let me explain, please. People who are not into the genre as much see it as inferior to others, I would say, and so maybe even bigger names stray away from it, just because they think it's an inferior class of movie. But this wasn't, I think, a great achievement in making like taking it to a different height, a different level of directing, where it seemed very surrealistic and like muted and poetic in a way. I don't know if you get that, where you said it felt like one part of the movie was different than the second, and one was faster and slower, and it just seemed a little.
Yeah, definitely a part of it that is because like I was one day exhausted, another day I wasn't. but I would still stand by what I said because like it is very like paced. Like it's it's so different from like movies today because the pacing is so different and people would say slower, you know, not always a bad thing. Um or a good thing. Kind of, you know, kind of goes with the movie. I think it fits with the movie because like it just like I feel like it just makes you really say like what the fuck? Like what is going on here? Cuz like it's very strange. It's a very strange film and I think that and it's to its credit because you're just like what the fuck is this guy doing? Cuz you like kind of don't know. You kind of just like kind of it kind of like unravels itself, which is kind of cool cuz like um even like being able to like read what they're saying, you're able to I think to follow the plot better if you're paying attention rather than if you're watching a film with a language that you understand. You might miss something because you can't read everything that they're saying. So you get this catch like maybe minor things you wouldn't be able to, or just like yeah, this film yes, but like you know, let's say comparatively, let's say we miss like a moment, like a kind of like subtle moment in like I don't know, name The Exorcist or something. Any English
Yeah,
speaking film we've done because we know English.
yeah, that's a good point, I think. Um, and also, just bouncing off that, you said it kind of felt different and with the pacing. Um,
Yeah,
Go
like
ahead.
I would say like it was kind of like n- um I'm trying to think of what the words for it. Like it's like this huge mystery of like the kidnappings that are happening, and you're like, and he's like, oh, my daughter's dead, but then she's not dead, and then so like, we're going to spoilers now, obviously. um, but then like one of the patients dies, and I was like, wait, was that the daughter? Like I was like trying to figure it out because like I thought they already I thought that she had the surgery and like that was her face and it was like being healed, but it was like and then she like killed herself. I think I don't know. Um, but I thought that was the daughter at first, and I was like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, it's kind of you have to really kind of pay attention to that. Um, and just if I can, well, real quick before I get to my point, that the mask in this movie, if you guys Google it real quick, was the inspiration for Michael Myers
I
in the
kind of
original.
like once we were kind of talking about it a little bit more, I could definitely see it because it just of just how expressionless it is, and like, and if I feel like they put it and they amplify it more with like Halloween, like how it covers more of his face.
Yeah, it's very androgynous, no expression, very. It's just like a very pale, not even like wrinkles or any features. So it's very ominous. Um, but with that, that kind of talks to the muted feeling of the movie, and that's why I think this horror film jumped a level in my opinion, because the shrieks and the terror that you from this movie aren't from they're not coming from the characters. You don't get a lot of gasps and screams. I think like in a slasher, people are chasing. You
Yeah,
get that sort of. I think it's you really get the horror and the suspense from the internal psyche of these characters. They all seem kind of like really discombobulated, I guess, in their own existence, really, like what they're even doing.
well, this
I've done
just
stuff.
like I was gonna say, like with the doctor, is just like he's just like freaking mental. Like even when he's doing you see the surgery when he's cutting off the person's face, and I was just like, oh wow, that looks pretty good.
Yeah,
Like
like he hones the craft and pretty, I would say, pretty graphic for the time. Would you say those some of those you see some surgical scenes where they're cutting into the face and taking it off with clamps and everything?
yeah, like I was impressed with like, what they did, and like I was trying to figure out how they did it, and I'm assuming they just used a dummy and they used like a plastic face to cut it off and used like fake blood or something. I don't even probably not even blood. They probably used like some kind of food to substitute it for blood because it kind of looked like really jelly or something.
The skin
Yeah,
face
the skin
or
face.
yeah, yeah, when she takes it off. Yeah. Yeah, and they didn't cut. I was like waiting for like a cutaway or a fade that would come where it's like, oh, he's close up on the face and it's gonna fade and it's gonna be them pulling it off to some weird thing. But no, it was like a pan in, like a Dutch angle pan in from when he made the final incision to like weirdly jelly, as you said, peeling it
Yeah.
off. Yeah, it was good. And Pete,
Did
let's
you
see.
think of the?
It's
Sorry, no. Mine's
oh no, go
no,
ahead.
mine's really unrelated. I was gonna say, did you think of the movie Face Off at all?
Oh yeah,
With
actually,
Nicolas Cage and John Travolta.
it's funny you mentioned
Face
that.
Off.
Face. Oh, Face Off. No, I heard, and this is I'm not bullshitting here. I was doing some research, and John Woo, who directed that, the comment to this movie was, you remember the final scene of this movie where the protagonist who doesn't have the face is walking out of the house, the big mansion, and seemingly into the woods to freedom. All those doves are flying around her.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's a trademark of a John Woo movie. Classic doves shot. And
Oh yeah.
um, he pays tribute to this movie. Not a joke. So you joked about Face Off in this movie. I poured through the research. John Woo a fan?
I could see him being a fan. Just like
As well.
it's like a very director movie. You know what I mean?
And just thinking of other movies, it just popped in my head. The Skin I Live In. Did you see that one?
No, I did not.
Isn't that Antonio Banderas, right? Is that the one?
I always get that confused with the one that Scarlett Johansson is in.
That's not The Skin I Live In. That's
Under My Skin, right?
Under the Skin, yeah. Or Under My Skin, yeah.
Or Under the... See, there's another one called that. It's too confusing.
Yeah. Well, that was inspired by this movie, too. People enjoy this movie. But back to this, before we kind of go into trivia and some more backstory and the budget. One thing I also saw that I thought was prevalent just to address is deeper thematic elements of the film. I think a big thing to address is eyes and faces. Clearly, that's in the title. People have disfigured faces and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think the eyes, you see, they're prevalent everywhere. I mean, even with the girl in her mask, people's deep concentration, the sweaty brows, they're following everything, represent just sort of knowledge that we have and power and prestige, like the doctor and everything. And then the idea that you don't, in our face is our being, our identity, what makes us human. And I think it was a clash between those two in this film, with the doctor being knowledge and the daughter being this humanistic element, battling against them. Almost sci-fi. That's sci-fi. What is it? Man versus God, or man versus nature. But those clashing the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't have her face. But that's what she holds on to, and all he has is his knowledge, and he thinks that's what's going to bring her back. And in the end, we see that the humanistic element of your being, your identity, wins out over knowledge and really just your selfish intent.
Well, I guess you could... I don't know.
Boom shakalaka.
Because, like, she... full of spoilers, straight up murders her father.
She does. And the mistress.
Would you say that's humanistic? I guess. Is she captive? Can she not leave?
Yeah, what I took is the dad won't let her leave. He tells the authorities that she's dead.
Yeah.
So she's locked up in the house, and then she doesn't want the face. She wants to be with Jacques, her fiance, and she doesn't. You see her when she's looking at these women that they're bringing in. Basically petrified by them. Basically, she's empathizing with them.
Yeah.
And doesn't want her father to do this, and she's vocal about that. And then at the very end, she has action, and she sets the girl free and attacks her father.
Yeah. Okay. You sold me on that one.
That's my take on it.
Because, like, I don't, like, at first, like, thinking about it, I was like, is she being held against her will? I was like, the only thing that's really holding her back is that she doesn't, like, she's missing, like, half her face. And, like, because she's, like, so worried about her beauty, I feel like. And I think he is, too.
You felt that she was obsessed with her beauty?
A little bit.
Yeah?
Because, like, I mean, I feel like she wasn't really, obviously she wasn't vocal about it, but I feel like that's why she's wearing the mask.
But I thought she didn't want to wear the mask. Because, like, remember when we first come back to the mansion and we haven't seen her, we think she's dead because the doctors identified this one girl as, yeah, that's my daughter, and she's dead.
Yeah.
It turns out that was just one of his experiments. She's not wearing the mask. And he goes, you have to get in the habit of wearing this. And she's like, I don't want to wear it.
Oh, I don't remember that part.
And you see her, she wears it throughout the film, but it's only after persistence.
Oh.
Like the mistress comes to her and says, put this on.
Man, that changes my perspective of the movie.
And then she'll do it. Yeah.
See, I thought that she was just like kind of, man, how did I miss that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I felt like she she just wanted to be herself. Like, I don't want to wear this mask. I want to be with Jacques. I just want to get out of here. And she even said, Dad, I don't blame you for what happened.
I know later on that I kind of saw like she just like was so upset about like not having a face anymore, and like she's like, just kill me. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, because that's why it kind of like worked with my theory, because I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like, she's like, so that's where my theory kind of was backing up behind all that, and then it's just not right.
No, I get where you're coming from, and I remember that scene. And I think she says it multiple times, actually, where she's like, then I'd rather be dead or kill me. But I think what, like, the context is in that situation, again, is they're telling her that she has to wear this mask. She can't go see Jacques. She can't do this. And that, and to her, well, I don't have this freedom. I can't just leave here. I can't be with what I want to love. You're holding me captive for things I don't want. I'd rather be dead.
Yeah.
That's the way I took it then. My face is, I'm a monster. But I could be wrong. I don't have a PhD in film studies. I'm just a man who likes horror.
Oh man, now I just forgot what I was gonna say.
Well, we're getting towards the end here. This did have just some quick, budget production notes. Budget, I don't really know, but I saw it's a tight 84 minutes. It's not that long, but it made like 52,000 in the box office in 1960, which is like,
I feel like it's not good.
It's not. I did the inflation, and it's like maybe 500,000.
Yeah, that's not good.
Today. So, box office, it wasn't that great, but reception has been great for it.
Well, I saw initially the critical reception was not high, so I think that probably played a part into it. Because like, if a newspaper doesn't like it, who's gonna go see it?
True.
Back then the newspapers had it all.
No, I read that too, and they were saying like people walked out at the first like face transplant scene because they were disgusted. They thought it was too crude, and it wasn't until almost several years later, I think even when it got the American release, that it started to get better reception.
I think that always happens with like foreign movies. They like get really popular in America like 10 years later.
Yeah, after they were smashed in wherever else they came out. And it was released here. It was edited and dubbed, but under a complete different title. We know it now in the American as Eyes Without a Face, which is what it translates to. But it came out as The Horror Chamber of Dr. Faustus. First of all, who the fuck is Dr. Faustus? Because that person is not in this movie. It's like Dr. Grensigneur or something. So,
yeah, I don't know what the hell they're going for.
Yeah, so that was the original release in America. One thing I did want to mention, I don't know if we have any French film fans, but Children of Paradise is one of the best French films. Not me saying that, but just rated by people. And the doctor in this movie, the main doctor, Pierre Brasseur, is one of the main guys in that movie. In Children of Paradise. And the director for this film helped set up, I believe it was called, I'm not going to butcher the French name, but it was a French movie production company during World War II. It's historically in cinema because they would make films under Nazi regime with French rebels during production, and basically have French rebel codes encrypted in them when people watched it. So like sort of liberating France and stuff. This like subliminal anti-Nazi stuff. And the main guy in this movie was in those films, and the director of this helped set up that studio.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool story if you guys want to read more on that. It's a really interesting time in film history.
Yeah, 1960s France, like, basically being savaged by the war. It's only like, what, 8 years, not even 8, a little longer than 8 years later.
Mm-hmm. Probably during Reconstruction still. But yeah, wanted to get him in there. Shout out, and also a shout out before we do a Defend or Destroy. The term necrosis gets brought up in this film. Everybody, I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, that is.
Basically, there's a face transfer to the daughter, and that's the disease that happens. Starts to eat away at her face, and they have to take the skin off. That's a shout out to my main man Pete over here. If you guys follow the blog at all, Pete's writing a blog on writing a horror screenplay, and that's what his is about.
That's the title of my screenplay. You know what's really funny is that I didn't even catch that.
Come on, man! It's your screenplay.
I totally missed it. That's really funny.
Yeah.
I was like, really? Yeah. So actually,
Pete.
What's up?
No, go ahead.
The blog post actually is still. I need to finish it up because I want to finish the script first, and I'm doing like the final touches on it. I've been kind of procrastinating on that for a little bit. I mean, I've worked on it with you, so you know how it is.
Oh, I know.
But it's a screen. It originally was a full feature length film that I written for a screenwriting class in school. But I intended it to be a short horror film, and so now it's edited down to a short film, and I'm gonna write a blog about like the process behind it, and then even release the story so you guys could read it. And if you guys copy it, that's just cool because that means you read it.
Yeah, no, definitely check out that blog. I think it's a cool idea, and if you get a chance to actually read it, I've read the script several times. I've given some tidbits about it. I think it's good stuff.
Oh, thank you.
No, yeah. I mean, that's just honest opinion. As soon as I heard that word in the movie, I was like, Pete's doing a movie about that.
And just didn't even catch it.
All right, everybody, we're wrapping up here at the end of the podcast. We're going to do our regular bit with Defend or Destroy. I usually throw it to Pete. I'm going to start it this time, Pete. I'll Defend or Destroy it first. And I'm going to defend.
Yeah, I knew your answer for that one.
Yeah. I chose this one this week. It's been on my list for a while. And I told Pete before we started recording, of the movies we've done so far, it's probably the top one. I'm a big fan of French films in general, but just the style of the film. It was very poetic. I think every shot was chosen very precisely. It was very calculated, and with that, the movie took on a whole story of itself, more than the horror elements that you see in the narrative. The scenery and the atmosphere, especially the cemetery with like the trees that were overarching over the graves. I think that was fantastic. And the theme, the music to acting to all of it, I thought was well executed, and I defend it. I really recommend it.
So, I would not give it as an outstanding review as you, because I think it just really comes down to I need to rewatch this film, as I missed. As you can tell, missed some points, missed some things in the movie, where I think I honestly nodded off because I was just so tired. That one, the first day I watched it for the first half, and it probably, so it was that, and it's really slow pace, so I was just like, oh shit. But I would say I respect it, especially since it's from the Criterion Collection is
yes sir, it is.
As most people would call it.
Mm-hmm.
But I just made up Crit Collect. Hopefully that catches on.
I'm sure it will. # Crit Collects. Mm-hmm.
But I can't destroy it based on that merits. I think but it's a tougher watch for the impatient, and so check it out if you're really into horror and you not running out of options, but you just want to see an older movie, which is, and not too often you're not going to see this anywhere. I saw it on Hulu. Thankfully they have it on there.
It's on YouTube. I watched it on YouTube HD.
Oh wait, what?
Yeah.
Did you pay for it?
No, free. So if you don't have Hulu or anything, Free on YouTube HD, so you can check it out on there.
Well, I use my girlfriend's Hulu account, so.
Well, yeah, should have used that free internet site YouTube. This is a advertisement for YouTube. They're sponsoring us now.
Shut it down. Just like shut us down.
With that, I think that's going to wrap up this week. We run a little long, but great for listening to us and hanging around there with us. We love hearing from you. Give us some feedback on the website. We got blogs, discussion forums. Let us know how we're doing, what you want to hear us to talk about, what new movies are out, what you're watching. And we'll get blogs up. Pete's going to have his blog up about the screenplay he's writing, and I'll have one up soon. So stay tuned for the next episode for the podcast It Records. Until next time, I'll remain in the shadows.
No, I will remain in the shadows.
Get the fuck out of my shadows, man. That's my thing.